router is starting to take better shape now, and we're starting to head in the right direction. And now we're going to continue doing the work to move towards a very modularized routing system. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and first just clean this up. I'm going to remove this high level console log. We don't really need that at this point in time. Let's start writing some code to start seeing how we're going to set up different modularized routing systems in our API. So by now, I think you should be comfortable with the fact that we can just go ahead and instantiate individual routers, and we can create as many as we want. And so in our API, we're going to create a router for every high level set of endpoints. So if we had endpoints for a user service where we update a user, create a user, we'll have a specific router that is dedicated to a whole set of those routes. Let's write the code for this and it'll start making sense in a moment. So I want to create a constant here. We're going to call this default router. The idea with this default router is it's going to be the router that kind of handles all the generic responses that our API wants to have. So stuff like that ping route, which is just like a health check route, we can add that in our default router. If we need like 4 or 5 method not allowed or 4 or 4 not found, we can add that to this router where it's kind of the generic maintenance style request and response handling. We'll just instantiate a new router and that'll be assigned to the value of default router. I'll create another constant here. We'll call this default router, and we'll assign a new express router to that. So we have 3 separate instances of express router in this file right now. The first one here, the high level one, is the main router of our application, and that one's being attached onto our express app instance, which is being injected as a parameter. And so at this point in time, this router only has one piece of middleware that's registered on any traffic that comes after the /API. And so that's this piece of middleware that we've defined here. To demonstrate how we can attach like these sub routers onto the main router, we can just create a few pieces of middleware here. We'll say default router, and we'll just create a simple get here. So we'll use the .get method, and I want to match anything that comes onto the ping route. We'll set up a request handler. Once we have our request and our response available there, we can just set up a simple console log. We'll say default router ping handler. We'll just say res.send status. We'll send back a 200. And let's just go ahead and do the exact same thing for the user router. So we'll say user router.get, and we're just going to use the / to reference anything that comes onto the user endpoint. We will then just set up a request handler. That'll be rec and res. And then we'll set up this console log. We'll say user router, we'll say get user handler. And we'll just send back a res.send status, and that'll be 200. All right, so we've got a default router, a user router with one piece of middleware attached to each one respectively. Now what we can do is I'm going to delete this request handler that we've written out for the main router. So remember, this router is the instance of express router we've instantiated at the top of the class, and this is the router that's being attached to the express instance. We can say anything that comes through at the base path of the router, we want to forward that onto the default router. So now we are attaching this router onto our main router. And then in the same way, we can say router.use. This is where we can define a specific endpoint here where we say anything that says /API /user. We can just send that off through to the user router. And so in this way, we can just continue setting up many module for any API paths that we have. So if we had, let's say, an account endpoint, we can send that to an account router. And in this way, we can just, any middleware that's related to each one of these routers, they can then be handled in their own separate files. And then we can just have this high level file where we can see what exactly is being done in our routing middleware sequence. So I'm just going to delete this account one because we don't actually have that. And let's go ahead and test this out and see what that looks like. In Postman, just do a simple GET request to just our base path of our API. And you'll see that we get back a 404 not found. And that's because there is nothing that, there's no middleware in our middleware chain that will match to this path. But if we do an API/ping, this is going to hit our default router, and you can see we get that 200 OK. As well as in our console log, we can see default ping handler has been hit. If we go ahead and hit the API/user, you'll see we get back a 200. And in this case, we hit that user router middleware. And so we can send traffic now to different routers within our app, and they'll be all handled with code that is specific for every modularized router that we create. So we are one step closer to finishing this off in its entirety. Let's take a short break here and pick it up in the next lesson, where we'll start abstracting all the work that we've done for the default router into its own folder and set of files. And so the abstraction of the router is just going to be one step closer to the final product. So well done on making this far. There's a lot going on here, but we're doing good work. I'll see you in the next lesson. Cheers for now.